Hi guys, welcome to Squadding Quads. This is going to be the final video, the final review, the final countdown, the final of the Diatone Roma F5 4S versus the Iflight NAZGUL Mark II 4S. Both are HD, and on paper the specifications are very, very close, but there are a few key differences. And I've set out, I started flying again at Christmas. I've been at it as much as possible now for the past 3 months. I'm by no means an expert. I've not even scratched 5% of the surface, but I have been flying on a ridiculously regular basis, and I've built a few quads in that time as well. I'm actually sat here recording this voiceover separately to the images that you see with a TBS Source 1 with Korea rear turbine motors in a 6S configuration, with the DJI digital DJI FPV camera. This thing's going to be amazing. I cannot wait to take this thing out. I tried to take it out yesterday and I forgot the battery strap. I brought it back and weirdly I thought, I better just put the cable in for the smoke, because it wasn't seem to be powering it up. Anyway, I put the cable on and now the flight controller's dead. Now luckily I've got a spare of exactly the same one, so it was just a case of sort of soldering it on. But yeah, very, very bizarre. So anyway, I built a few, I bought a few, I've flown a few, and I've crashed more. And like I say, I'm not going to say that I'm an expert. I'm not going to profess that I'm an expert, and I'm not even going to say that you should take my word in this review over anybody else's. What I'm going to say is I'm going to give you my word, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion as somebody who isn't sponsored by Diatone or iFlight or any other RC company. I'm not in bed with any of them. None of them have sent me anything free or cheap or anything like that. So I'm completely impartial. So I can give you an impartial view of somebody who's taken up the hobby recently. Now, okay, full disclosure, yes, I did start flying FPV 4 or 5 years ago, but it wasn't a very successful venture. I struggled so badly with the confidence of the analog systems. And obviously back then we was using NAZE KK boards and Simon K firmware, and yeah, you took off too quickly and you'd burn out your entire, what is that? Oh, you took off too quickly and you'd burn out your entire ESC and flight controller and motor, and yeah, it was a nightmare. So full disclosure, I have been flying for longer than just 3 months, but when I was flying before, I wasn't doing a lot of flying, nothing like what I'm doing now, nor was it anywhere near as successful. I might have 30 seconds bouncing around like Bambi and then ended up smashing into the ground. So I do consider myself to be a newbie, apart from the fact that I do have the theoretical experience behind me from all those years ago. And I've always been into flying in other ways, and I've always been into RC for, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years now. I'm getting old. So that's a full disclosure as to where I am and who I am in order to give you this review. And at the end of this review, I am going to tell you which I think is better and why. And originally, I wasn't going to do that. Originally, my answer was going to be, if you are this type of pilot, buy this one. And if you are this type of pilot, buy this one. And that still stands true. But I am actually going to recommend one over the other. So, the main differences with the Roma and the NAZGUL are under the hood. The Roma they both come with an F4 processor board. Now, personally, and I've said this ever since I've had an F7, and now I've converted everything to F7s, I can feel the difference. I feel more locked in flying an F7 flight controller. That could be a placebo effect, but it's certainly what I feel. So what I had to do for this test is I had to stop flying all my other quads. So for a 2-3 week period, all I flew was a NAZGUL 4S, because my 6S is converted to an F7, and the Roma, which is an F4. And once you've tuned them out, as long as you're not flying an F7 directly after it, to be fair, they're okay. And you can make them feel locked in. So there's no great detriment to flying an F4, especially if you fly in digital, because all you need is a TX and an RX. You need a TX and an RX for your crossfire if you're flying crossfire, and then you need a VBAT and a ground for your SMO if you're using that. So using an F4 board is genuinely not an issue at all. There's plenty of space. So that's the first point. So they both come with an F4 board, so there's no benefit to either of them there. Where the Roma does benefit, and benefits quite handsomely actually, thinking about it, is first of all, the Roma comes with the DJI camera, which I've put some footage up of the DJI camera versus the Nebula camera that comes with the NAZGUL. Sorry, apologies. And the difference is, well, I mean, it's not massive. If you look at the video the other day where I crashed the butt grinder build because of the Earsheen camera, I just didn't see that branch at all. Momentum took me forward and into it, but I didn't see it whatsoever. Whereas with the Nebula camera, you can see more. There's no two ways about it, and it's not as much of a hindrance really as the Earsheen camera. The Earsheen camera is appalling, and it shouldn't really be in such a nice build. So when stores get stocks of anything again, I'm probably going to I am going to change that, to be fair. It's such a nice quad, I really don't want to leave that to getting stuck on a roof again. And it had the SMO 4K on it as well, so it took me 24 hours to get a grappling hook and then go back and pull it down. And luckily there was no damage apart from the props, which amazing. Still to this day surprises me. So first of all, the difference is the camera. They both come with a Cadex Vista. They both come with an F4, so that's the same. But the camera is a better quality FPV camera, to the point you can actually use these like third-party software now to wash the gyro data into the footage and actually stabilize it. And actually, it comes out looking okay. You don't necessarily, if you're having a super light build, or you don't want to risk putting a GoPro, because I didn't put a GoPro on for a while. If you don't want to risk it because you're a bit of new to the hobby and you're scared about crashing and destroying an expensive GoPro or an expensive whatever, then that's an option for you. The next step where Diatone excel over Iflight is the 4-in-1 ESC. So in the NAZGUL, we have a BL Heli S 4-in-1 ESC, which is fine. Again, you can pay a couple of dollars, you can flash JESC firmware onto that, and you can have bidirectional D-shot and RPM filtering. Great. But, and this is where the real benefit, in my opinion, is the Diatone Roma comes with a BL Heli 32 4-in-1 ESC, and it's a 50 amp as well. So it's not even, we're not shirking our responsibilities here, Diatone. Let's be fair. They're putting a decent one in there. And obviously that allows us out of the box without any additional cost to run bidirectional D-shot, to run RPM filtering, which will allow your quad to fly better and smoother and be more locked in. It's not a deal breaker, but certainly as we move forward with more firmwares that will require potentially BL Heli 32 and may not be compatible with BL Heli S, it just helps future-proof, especially if you're only buying 1 or 2 quads as well. It just helps future-proof that quad that you bought without having to then think, oh, I need to buy another one, or I need to buy another one, or I need to buy... So there's that. And then the real kicker is, so that those two, the camera and the ESC, are massive, especially when you consider it's actually a bit cheaper than the Nazgul. But that's not the full story yet, because you don't get the option with the digital one anyway of having a Crossfire pre-installed, a Crossfire Micro or Nano, sorry. Now luckily I had a Crossfire Micro to hand from 4 years ago, believe it or not. It was from, and I've actually got it here, you can't see it, but it's an old, I don't even know what this is, but the board is a Maytech F405 all-in-one, Foxeer camera. We've got Brother Hobby motors, Brother Hobby Tornadoes, 2206 26,000 kV T2s. That's how old this is, and it's just sat there for all that time. So that's now in the Roma, and that's performing wonderfully actually. If that hadn't have been in the Roma, that would have been an extra cost to me, which would have put the price slightly over the Nazgul, but with a better camera and a better ESC. So you can see where we're going. For every gain you make with one, you have a compromise, and for every loss you make with one, you have a gain with the other. So it really is swings and roundabouts. But the next point is the frame is that much lighter. You can actually feel it. Now, one thing that has been said on my channel, and I believe other channels, is in certain pictures, in certain videos, the Roma looks like a bit of a toy, to be honest. When you open that box, it really doesn't. When you open that box, it is genuinely impressive. So I'm going to give the win on the weight and the packaging and the look to the Roma there. And a lot of people are surprised by that, but I genuinely think when you open that box, it looks lovely. Now the motors, I'm no expert on motors, so I can't tell you which one's better. I can only tell you which one feels better. And I'm probably going to give the edge to the Roma motors ever so slightly. Does that mean they're better? I could be completely wrong. It's a blind test. I don't know. Genuinely, I don't. So that's the whole package. But what does that mean? What does that translate to? We've got Skidoosh's videos showing how his Roma snapped. I've hit a tree at full throttle, a big thick branch, to the point where I was about half a kilometre away. It was still in visual line of sight, but I was, in the open field, about half a kilometre away, and the noise of how hard I hit that tree, I've actually damaged, and I don't know if anybody's clocked on the videos, the DJI FPV camera. You can actually see a spot on the camera, and that's where I hit that tree branch so hard. It's just the outside lens, and again, you can just get a replacement. I've got no doubt. I mean, you should just be able to get a replacement. It is just the outside glass. But that's how hard I hit that, and nothing was damaged. And then in the same round of flights, I then hit against the ground. And again, it's luck, I suppose. The angle of it was that it didn't do any damage, but it was a lot more forceful than it looked, believe you me. So, do I think that the Diatone Roma suffers because of its lesser weight, against the Nazgul? Well, I do and I don't, because my personal experience is I've crashed the Nazgul at high speed. I was doing it at 50 miles an hour when I'd realised, and again, the video's out there if you want to see this, but I realised that I'd just pushed the battery a little bit too hard, made a very quick decision to turn around and try and get it back, and I was skimming over the ground at about 50 miles an hour. I was only a foot or so above the ground, realised that the battery had sagged too much and it was just going to die, so I just raised the nose slightly and hit the ground and cartwheeled over about 8 or 9 times from about 50 miles an hour. And again, there was no damage, but a subscriber, Beelzebub, told me that he'd had a sort of a fail-safe crash where he'd damaged his motor, his arm, of a Nazgul, and that surprised me. I don't disbelieve him in any way, shape or form, but it surprised me because the Nazgul seems really well built. But then also everyone's saying how not well built the Roma frame is because of how light it is. But yet I've had a really high impact, like I say, from about half a kilometre away. The noise of hitting that branch made me wince as I was flying, looking through the goggles. But the noise, because obviously, you know, I had the spotter stood next to me confirming everything was okay. I had the live feed from the goggles, but half a second later you hear the noise because obviously sound travels that little bit slower. And I winced and I thought this is going to go down, and you actually see me do a little pirouette just in case. And it didn't, and I thought, well, I better bring it back and check it. And I didn't even change props, which means the full impact was on the camera and the frame where the sort of camera is held. So surely that would have broke it. Surely hitting the ground would have broke. But again, with these crashes, I think you're either lucky or you're unlucky, and it's all about the angle that it hits, the trajectory that it hits from, the velocity that it's got. And what can look like a really low speed impact can just be the most awkward angle you've ever seen and cause so much damage that you're like, what? Or you can hit the ground at 50 miles an hour, cartwheel 10 times and walk away. It is what it is, and I think it comes down to luck. So my initial answer to which one should you buy was going to be this. My initial answer was going to be, if you are, and this was before the crashes, if you are a new pilot who may crash, buy the Nazgul. It's a little bit stronger, it's a little bit more robust, it's not quite as well equipped, but it'll do you well. And if you're not a totally brand new pilot and you're confident enough that you're not going to crash every flight, buy the Roma. That was going to be my initial summing up of what should you buy. But that's not my summing up now. Another concern about the Roma is how floaty it is, especially in the wind. And again, that's true. It is a little bit on the floaty side. It can be buffeted a little bit by the wind. But I've flown in quite windy conditions. And as long as, and again, I wouldn't expect somebody who's a complete newbie that doesn't understand wind to go out and fly in some of the conditions that I've flown in. As long as you fly into the wind rather than making it a crosswind and just trying to cause yourself nothing but pain, the Roma's fine. Because of the extra power that it's got, the concerns about it being sort of buffeted off course, I think, are unfounded. And one of the very first videos I did included doing a split S at the other side of the field in relatively windy conditions. The Roma went up and did a perfect split S. The Nazgul went up and got blown completely off course. Now, it's possible that it was a little bit more windy over there by the time I'd done the Nazgul flight. But again, it was shocking to see, and you only get to see this sort of stuff when you do back-to-back tests like this. It's no good, even if you're going to test both together, it's no good going out and saying, right, today I'm going to fly the Nazgul all day, and then tomorrow I'm going to fly the Roma all day, because you're flying in different conditions. You as a pilot feel different. I'm still not over the illness that I got a couple of weeks ago that slowed me down. One day I feel good, the next day I feel absolutely shocking. So if I'd gone out and felt really good and flown the Nazgul and been able to do stuff that I couldn't do the day before, and then the next day I feel terrible and fly the Roma and I can't do them things, I might know in my mind that's why, but the footage isn't going to show that, and memories fade, and my memory could well be, oh well, no, what's it? No, I don't remember. So I'll look at the footage, and then I see that I flew better there. Well, that must be better then. So I think it's imperative whenever you do tests like this to fly different, or the two things you're testing back to back. So that's what I've been doing. And the Roma isn't as, it is more floaty, but that helps with doing tricks over trees and stuff. And I think the video I put out yesterday actually shows how well I'm able to go up and over and around the tree. Part of that's practice, don't get me wrong, because I tried it with the 6S Nazgul and I was able to do it. But part of it is having that confidence in the quad. And here's the thing, and this is a question that has been asked to me by a subscriber, Addicted Quadroner. If you had only one quad to take out, which quad would it be? Which one have you got the confidence in to put your hand out and put in the bag? And that quad's a Diatone Roma. And I'm surprised at that answer. The other day, I may have sort of given away inadvertently the winner by publishing the crash video of the bot grinder, because I only had two quads with me that day. I had the bot grinder build and I had the Roma build. Didn't have the Nazgul with me that day because I picked up the best quad I've got and I picked up the best quad that I bought. And that video was part of the series of built versus bought, which is coming next. Which quad is better? Which quad gives you the more bang for your buck? Which route should you go down? So I may have inadvertently given away the answer. But if I could only pick up one quad, it would be the Roma. The reasons for that is, one, it's better spec'd. Two, I think it's more enjoyable to fly and sling around. Three, I've got the confidence in it because of the camera. And four, I've got the confidence in it now. I've had a few impacts that it's not just going to deteriorate. And it comes in, once you add a crossfire, roughly about the same price. Roughly, give or take a couple of dollars. But you've got a better ESC, you've got a better camera, and you've got a lighter frame, and I think you've got better motors. So it's taken me a long time, but here I am. I can now say the winner of this series of the Nazgul versus the Roma, which one should you buy, is the Diatone Roma F5. Thanks for watching. Till next time, take care.